Hello, welcome to the 1301 podcast. Currently roughly unnamed, but this is Shayne and Blayne coming to you with the inaugural podcast. Today we're going to be introducing ourselves, talking a little bit more about the 1301 project, what that's all about, what we want to do with this podcast, introducing ourselves so you get a feel for our personalities, and we will be talking a decent chunk on the Call of Duty multiplayer reveal event, which happened yesterday at the time of this recording, and we will be talking about Blayne's new upgraded PC. So that are the general footnotes. So we'll just get right on into it. Blayne, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So Shane and I met when we were in college. That's really where this all started. We were both working at a GameStop near our university's town, and that led to us eventually moving in together on campus during my second year at the college. And that's where the 1301 in 1301 Entertainment really stems from because we were in the townhouse unit and that was our unit number. It was 1301. Kind of like how many of the great Easter eggs in Pixar movies is the college dorm room that all the main creators of the company met each other at. We are going to use that as our inspiration to keep us rooted to where we all came from, where we all met, and have us have a way to look back and reminisce on the times we had when we were in school.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Yeah, 1301, just a very iconic moment in our lives, I guess. And when I was kicking around names for what I wanted to call this whole thing, I just thought of that 1301 Productions. Which you'd be surprised how many URLs with 1301 in them are taken. Well, actually, yeah, 1301 Entertainment is it? But like I think like 1301 Media or something that's taken. Yeah, it was rough, like to find all the like specific things that weren't taken, and it's like it just seems like those people like chose them at random. But I guess it's a nice number. It rolls off the tongue pretty easily, so can't blame them. They just
Yeah.
they just got to it before me.
Well, we're gonna do it better anyways.
Yeah, screw them. All right, so
um,
go ahead.
so moving from here, I feel like we should really talk about how we really bonded, what we our shared interests were, that kind of thing.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, so in general, me, Blaine, and our roommates at the time, we were all obviously like huge nerd heads, but also just I don't know, we loved like creating. I guess you could say like experiences. Like we always thought of like fun ways to like put spins on things. Like we always like we had a consistent game of Rock Band going almost every weeknight back at our
the
back at
Horror Wives.
yeah, the Horror Wives, famous inspiration from Danny DeVito as Frank Reynolds. So it was, I don't know, we always just tried to like we always had a fun time coming up with like backstories to things, and like there's general 1301 lore. All of it's ridiculous, and none of it's really substantive, but it's ours, and that's what
And
matters.
the crazy part is, every part of 1301 lore is true.
Yes.
From the train attacks to the party sync, which we will all talk about later on in this series.
Yeah, can't spill all the beans on you right away. We gotta keep some interest here.
But yeah, personally, Shane and I really bonded over first person shooters. That was really where we started playing games together a lot. This was around the time that the new Modern Warfare came out, and we spent a lot of time playing that at night. Before that, we were playing other various games.
We did have a house game of Borderlands going, which was really fun.
We did.
Like
That
which
didn't
which
last very long.
yeah, the house session of it lasted like two like half-hour play sessions, and then everyone just finished the campaign on their own time. But it was fun having the four players while it lasted.
Yeah. So yeah, now we are playing different games together. We have expanded. We spent a lot of time playing Jackbox with a big group, which let us get to know each other a bit more. And overall, we're really party game centric. Although we do have our couple single player personal choices, I know, Shayne, you were playing Death Stranding and Spider-Man. We were on campus. Persona 5 was a big one in our house.
Oh yeah, when I essentially indoctrinated like all of 1301 into Persona 5 stands. You know
And
that kind of came back to bite me a little bit because I over quarantine a bit I was playing Royal and I got about halfway through the game and I just kind of felt burnt out because even though I haven't played the original in like 2 years, like watching our roommates play it almost felt like I was playing it vicariously. So it's been sitting on my back burner, but I'm gonna get back into it.
so our main plans moving forward with this podcast and the actual 1301 Entertainment group as a whole is just bringing you different news articles, letting you see our insight onto the entertainment world, whether it's with video games, or movies, entertainment, music, TV shows. We all indulge in that in our own ways, and we'll all bring our own looks and views into what that means to us, and we'd like to share that with you to give you a different insight on the different things that mean and have special places to us.
Exactly. We're essentially just going on a full media blitzkrieg, both in what we cover and in the forms that we present that. So that's why there is the YouTube channel, this podcast you're listening to, and the website, which all of those will be consistently updated with both news, reviews, insights, think pieces, anything. Actually, keep your eyes peeled because hopefully, uploaded in close vicinity, if not the same day, will be the first of a weekly video news series that will be uploaded on the 1301 Entertainment channel. That will mostly be just a quick rapid fire of media news, not just games, but it'll mostly be that. But I'll try to cover any movie news or anything going on in that domain. But it'll specifically cover things that we don't go over in the podcast, so that way I'm not rehashing content.
Yeah, so as of right now, we're recording this on the 10th of September 2020, which is about a little more than 24 hours after the first initial looks of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War multiplayer, which caught the internet by storm because of their new and improved techniques for different things within the game world. Um, it overall, I'm excited for this game.
I would have to agree, and it takes a lot to get me excited about a Call of Duty game. Like, I was only so mildly interested in Modern Warfare, which the only reason I mainly played it was I received a free copy from the GameStop we were working at the time. One of the only few uh, perks of that job. You occasionally get Call of Duty for free. But no, honestly, this one, whether or not I get it for free, because they normally give you a PS4 copy, whether or not that happens, I will almost definitely be getting it on PC. Everything about it, at least from the multiplayer standpoint, because we only know so much about the campaign, but everything multiplayer-wise, I'm basically in favor of every decision that they made, and it looks incredibly interesting to me.
Stepping back a bit, talking about the campaign, it's boots on the ground, familiar faces are returning, and the animations look crisp as all hell.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of it, it seems to be a sequel to the original Black Ops, where it's just a Cold War continuation, basically in the '80s. So it's Black Ops 2, but for real this time.
We're not skipping a whole bunch of years.
Yeah, we're not going
having...
50 years in the future.
Yeah. It it closes a lot of doors basically because we were kind of wondering what happened in those 50 years. How did we get from the original events from Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 2? And this game was designed to do just that. You have people like Mason and Woods who we've seen, the President Nixon and Reagan should be making appearances.
Are they bringing Hudson?
The rendering.
Are they bringing
The
Hudson?
rendering
back?
of Reagan is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it looks so incredibly accurate. It's basically terrifying how like accurate that looks. Like the wrinkles in that man's face, and now on the new consoles we can get 8K wrinkles. It looks a little uncanny. Like we're hitting that point again where like stuff at its time will look so realistic that it's almost a little off-putting. But yeah. I mean, it looks cool. It's not like really bad. It's not like 2008 Grand Theft Auto 4 era, but Even though that game looked really great for its time, but it looks almost scarily realistic.
Jumping a bit now to what we saw yesterday in that big reveal trailer, let's just say it was a lot. Um, we were introduced to a couple of new game modes. We were introduced to some of the weapons that are going to be making a return from our old favorite games, such as Black Ops 1. Um, Also, some of the game mechanics that they're bringing back, as well as alterations to things that have already been existent inside Call of Duty games, such as the create a class system with field upgrades, which were introduced in, I believe it was Modern Warfare, the new one. I don't think that they had field upgrades before that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I want to say so, but to be honest, I've been very loosely. I've played an incredibly small amount of probably the past like 3 Call of Duty multiplayers. But essentially, my main takeaway was they seem to be mixing a lot of new, and then they're reverting certain things back to a state like with the creative class and the perks and that kind of stuff. And some people are complaining that like, oh, it feels like they're walking back, but I'm in favor of that because you can only throw so many new things at people like before it feels overwhelming. So I think having some familiarity and some new stuff will be both refreshing but also easily approachable to new people and old heads like us.
Now, there are some caveats to us being excited about the new features. Is that some of the features I am personally not too excited about. One of the biggest things that I've seen throughout research and watching the trailer, listening to Vonderhaar speak and his team, is that the time to kill is going to be faster than Black Ops 4 in a game that already felt very fast to me playing it. On top of that, there is a limited sprint.
Oh yeah, that
Which,
was the other thing. I did briefly forget about that. But the limited sprint, I don't know. It sounds weird. I have to see it in action first. But like the way they described it, I don't know. They did not do a great job of selling it.
like, I understand, like, oh, you're a trained Marine or Black Ops Special Forces, but everyone gets tired. No one can run forever with all that gear and the weapons and the ammo and everything that they carry. Like, you have to be able to bring some sort of like, you want to bring this back to some era of realism, yet you bring a limited sprint into this equation, and that just makes me a bit worried for what is going to show up later on with what they're not telling us yet.
Yeah, the one thing I like though is in terms of while we're on the topic of movement, they did say that they're gonna have a realistic height jump and that there will be like a slight movement penalty upon landing, which I like that because the era of jump shotting needs to come to a close somehow. So whatever takes that down a peg, I'm in favor of that.
Now, stepping away from what we've seen in the previous Treyarch games with their dolphin dive mechanic, which was a fan favorite for many, many people, they're opting to bring in the new sliding mechanic that was seen in Modern Warfare, and that has its ups and downs. You're losing that nostalgia thing with the way that the Black Ops storyline progressed by getting rid of that dolphin dive, but at the same time you're bringing in a more realistic type of movement. Um, so that kind of has me on the fence about that not
Yeah,
being a dolphin dive.
I agree. On one hand, it would be nice to have the dolphin dive back, but on the other hand, so many other games are using slide. It's just what's popular. Like as we're recording, I've been playing an absurd amount of Destiny 2, which has a slide. So I feel like it's like on one hand I would like the dolphin dive, but on the other hand, it's gonna feel like the slide will feel really really at home to me because it's such a staple in so many other shooters that we're playing right now.
Yeah. Score streaks are another big topic of concern.
Yes, I kind of like the changes, but I'm gonna be very nervous to see how they balance it because they're opting for that. Oh, everybody gets a chance to have them, but you get like a multiplier basically if you're doing really good. So it kind of seems like I don't know. It seems like at the end of the day, you're gonna just have a roughly similar like way that it plays out. It's just there's going to be a slight, I don't know, I guess offset of like, oh, that person has one, now that person has one. Which they're also
One,
introducing a delay, like or a
yeah.
like a cooldown essentially, so you can't have like 83 mortars or whatever popping off at
One
once.
thing too is the field upgrades, which we saw in Modern Warfare, are making a return, and the main one that they've really pushed to say, hey, listen, like we're not going to completely screw you here with these score streaks, is everyone has access to a SAM turret field upgrade, which basically means that if everyone on your team is running a SAM turret, the sky will never have an enemy aircraft.
Never ever. Clear skies, full hearts. Can't lose.
Like that's like you bring in an aspect to let everyone get their score streaks, but then you also just chop it down by giving a way to negate all of those score streaks. It's almost like they didn't truly balance it, but they wanted to give everybody a participation award and then snatch it from them at the same time.
Yeah, I do see that where the features could seem like at odds with themselves. They just effectively negate each other in their tandem. But I what other field upgrades have they announced? I haven't seen too many of that.
They announced the jammer, which I'm going to assume is like the secondary gadget from the original Black Ops, I think it was, which would
It's like a local counter UAV, right?
Yeah, it kind of was. It would stop certain machines from being used. If you ran a camera for some reason, it would cause the camera to not work. It would scramble your UAV or your HUD. And also the proximity mine, which it's you're bringing a bouncing Betty back, but you're putting it in a field upgrade this time. Like,
yeah, I don't enjoy that. That should just be a lethal. Like I don't see why that would be like a separate item.
Unless the proximity mine is used as like an anti-vehicle weapon, which is another thing to talk about. The new game modes. There's going to be a 12v12 combat, which is going to be very reminiscent of early Battlefield games.
Yeah, that was very much the vibe I was getting, especially I can't remember the name of it, but the map that's all on water, like all aquatic based.
With the two ships.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that was I was getting very heavy Battlefield 4 vibes with that one.
I actually have the name of that map in this article from PC Gamer. It is called Armada.
Armada. Yeah, that map looked cool. I mean, we can get into it in a minute, but I actually enjoyed all the maps that they showed. I really don't have, I don't think I have a bad thing to say about any one of them, but specifically with that, I enjoy seeing it move to a little bit more of a Battlefield-esque style. A lot of people would probably say, oh, like, that's not Call of Duty, but I don't know. Back when Call of Duty kept doing the same exact thing every year, and when Battlefield was probably at its arguable peak with Battlefield 3 and 4. I enjoyed that. Me and my friends opted for Battlefield more and more over Call of Duty. So if Call of Duty wants to adopt those popular features but still maintain their really tight, slightly arcadey style gunplay, I'm 100% for that.
I feel like it's what these 12v12 game modes are going to be is a refined version of the Ground War playlist that was seen in the last couple Call of Duties, where it's large teams with vehicles, large maps, many objectives, kind of like Conquest in Battlefield 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did have Call of Duty World War II, they had the War Mode, which was basically like if Battlefield is Coke, the War Mode was like Diet Coke, because it was so clearly a copy rip, but it was on such a small scale down that like there would only be one vehicle, like one tank for one side that would just utterly dominate. It was just so poorly balanced, at least in my experience. It was fun, but it was so chaotic and there was next to no structure to it. But this seems to be a little bit more going for, well, they did keep saying that as well. Now that they think about it, they kept mentioning how they want to keep the game balanced. That's very much at a forefront of their interests.
One other thing that I've noticed with different releases from both Activision and Treyarch is that the Warzone game mode, the free-to-play game mode, which released with Modern Warfare, is going to continue during the next year of Call of Duty with Black Ops Cold War. They're going to continue to update it and have that Battle Royale as a standalone, and incorporate things from each new game into that.
Yes, and the other thing that they said was because they were concerned, they wanted to keep that sense of progression for people. So effectively, anything that's earned or has been earned in the current iteration of Warzone will be continuing when Call of Duty Cold War launches, which rest in peace to everybody's hard drive sizes, because that just means they're adding content on top of content in that regard. But I do think that's cool. I think that's a good decision. I think people would be absolutely furious if they removed so many things. Like if they removed any cosmetics that people have earned or anything like that. Like people would definitely feel riffed on that.
Yeah. They did announce some of the score streaks that you have the ability to unlock, whether it's the classic RCXD, which is coming back in its original non-hover bullshit style.
Yes, I bring back my RCXD. I've missed it so.
Dude, I remember playing Black Ops 4 and having an RCXD hovering stuck to a wall on top of a bomb and search and losing the round because it would just drop on top of me like a fucking spider monkey.
Now, I think what they should do, with the classic RCXD, basically keep it to, not the hugest explosion radius in the world, but, keep it laser focused and have it go really, really fast. And I think that might be what they were doing, because they definitely showed it. They were advertising it as an anti-heavy vehicle option, like driving it underneath tanks, so on and so forth. So I like that. I loved the classic RCXD, hearing that little guy zoom around the map. I'm very happy to see that back.
They also mentioned in their release there's going to be both an attack helicopter, which is AI controlled, and a chopper gunner, which is manually driven. And on top of that, they are bringing back the fan favorite War Machine, which I hope will have impact grenades instead of bouncing grenades.
So you mean you hope it'll actually be useful as opposed to useless? Is the natural translation there. Yeah, I don't, whatever gameplay designer wrote off on the decision to have those things bounce, I hope you sleep well at night, because I don't know how you could with it. It felt so awful. If those rounds don't explode on impact, it's so next to useless. It's not even it's funny, but it's not funny.
Yeah. They did also mention some of the flagship weapons, I'm going to say, that they've confirmed are making an appearance. That being both the AK-47 and 74U, which have long been standing the best both sub and assault rifle in the game, based because of damage per shot. You're also bringing in a burst fire M16, which could have a full auto upgrade because M16s have been modified to shoot full auto in the past. You're having the classic 1911 pistol, which has been, I believe, in almost every single Call of Duty game.
At least in some form, yeah. At least Call of Duties that didn't have it, I believe Black Ops 3, they added it in back in their loot box era, which that's a whole another topic for another day. But I believe that is correct. Almost, if not every Call of Duty has had the M1911.
And one that I personally noticed when I was watching the trailer was what looked like the stakeout shotgun.
I personally did not see that, but I would be very happy to see that come back. The one that I did spot that I'm 99% sure it was the Galil. I mean, it looked like it had enough attachments on it to qualify as camping gear, but it looked like the Galil nonetheless.
With the new Call of Duty game coming out at the very tail end of the current generation of gaming, we come into the issue of people getting the game on one generation and shortly thereafter upgrading, or not everyone in their friend group having the ability to make that jump to the next generation. And at least Treyarch and Activision, their main fix for this is to have cross-generational gameplay as well as full cross-platform.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the cross-play was a given. I mean, that was so popularized with the last iteration. It would be such a shoot in the foot decision to back out on that. And again, cross-generational, I believe a lot of multiplayer games had that for PS3 to PS4 and Xbox 360 to Xbox One. So like both of those are good, but they're kind of assumed. Like I'm not gonna applaud them for that, but
Well,
I
the one thing that kind of concerns me with that is the fact that the next generation of consoles is so much like a computer at this point with higher refresh rates, the higher FPS and everything. It's such an advantage given to the players on the next gen unless they limit everyone in the game where crossplay is enabled.
How do you mean, like limit their frame rates and such?
Limit their frames, limit their refresh, give a fair fighting chance to everyone in the lobby. I feel like that would be the only correct way to play cross generation so that there's not someone who can see you before you have the chance to see them.
I do get that, but on the flip side, I don't. I feel like a better way to do it would be to effectively have people on the lower generation just have like an opting toggle feature. Like, do you want to only play with people on your tier of hardware or on the upper? Because it's as like you said, you made the comparison that consoles are becoming more the way of PCs. In PC, it's just if you have the better hardware, if you get the better frames, all the power to you. And to an extent, I think that consoles should at least move the same way because it would make a lot of people buying these new powerful machines that are well, at least with the Xbox, we know the price. Presumably, PS4 will be around the $500 mark. It's going to feel like that their purchase is immediately nipped a little. Um, I don't know. I think that at least what they probably will do is definitely let those consoles run or let those games run as well on these new consoles as much to their ability.
Before we move forward into talking more about PC gameplay, one thing that I have felt left out on because it's a Treyarch game, it's a Black Ops storyline. Where is the zombies?
Yeah, the elephant in the room, if we will. There was no zombies announcements, which isn't too shocking. It was a strict multiplayer event, but they
There was a slight Easter egg in the multiplayer trailer.
oh was there? I did not catch
I
that.
picked up on that during one of the animation scenes where it was like a transition. Whoever you were playing as said, "Let them come," before moving forward,
Hmm.
which gives me hope that hey, we know you like if you were paying attention, you'll notice that, but there's been no major leaks about it. There's been no announcement saying it's coming. There's been no voice actor like talk because the people realize who they hire and who they have been hiring and make that connection. Will there be a continuation of the story originally? Will they skip out on zombies completely because of the Warzone game mode? Like there's a lot that goes into that, and that will make or break their game because to a lot of these players that have been playing Black Ops since what 2009 or World at War since 2008 or 7, zombies is a huge part of that timeline, a huge part of that company, and if they just skip out on that, it's
Oh, I agree with you. That would be incredibly detrimental. It would be the first time in a decade that a Treyarch entry does not have a zombies mode. I mean, I was of the opinion years ago, at least in terms of like Black Ops 3 and 4, that essentially the only reason I bought those games was that they had the zombies mode, and the zombies mode looked relatively good. Just a shame that they made the Black Ops 4 iteration look good and play worse, but that's not the point here. But I think that they're if I had to bet, I would assume that there would be a zombies iteration. Whatever they do with that, I couldn't tell you. Maybe rehash the old storyline, do a completely new one. On the whole, I'm actually very surprised that, like, I thought of it when you mentioned it, again, that there was no leaks or anything. That, in general, this game has been incredibly tight-lipped. Like, normally, there's leaks for Call of Duty left and right. Like, we're seeing the box art, like, a week before, just any, like, there was always so many leaks from any side, campaign, zombies, or multiplayer, but we haven't seen
I
any of
think
that.
that might attribute slightly to the state of the world that we're in right now, where things have been being communicated differently. There isn't as much face to face talking. You can't overhear things through email chains. You can't pick up on voice actors if they're recording remotely. It's a big change for what we're used to, and that could have contributed to the way that it's been so tightly kept.
I agree. That makes sense now that you mention it. I guess it would also well, not that leakers have much incentive in the first place, but it would decentivize them even more because with everything being communicated almost exclusively digitally, that there's so much of a clear paper trail that, like, they would be able to clearly identify who had access to such information and who didn't, as opposed to, like, in the office you can look over somebody's computer, blah 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 blah. It's much more difficult with everything being remote work.
Now let's move past Call of Duty. We spent a decent amount of time talking about both the campaign and the multiplayer from what we've seen so far, our speculations for what's to come, and our hopes. Jumping from console to PC, which is something that I personally did very recently.
Extremely recently. Still wet behind the ears in the PC game.
Absolutely terrifying to sink that much money into, I'm going to call it a hobby, so quickly.
Oh yes, it's very much. I had a lot of money anxiety when I built my PC, but it was at the time it was something I wanted to do for years. So I kind of almost forced myself to do it. I was in a situation where I could afford it, but I was always the type to, like, not spend money in large quantities or, like, on large purchases. I was always a little bit more like $5 here, $5 there. So it is very daunting when you're like, oh my goodness, my cart is $400 and it has one or two things in it.
Yeah, you haven't even gotten to the expensive stuff yet.
And then go figure, right after you build your computer, NVIDIA comes right out and announces these new cards.
I don't want to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. It kind of upsets me.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think that they're going to be good. It's going to be a large step up, but historically there's always been at least some issues with the first wave of a new generation of graphics cards, and that's the other thing. They're not going anywhere. If anything, they will go down in price, and you will get a huge, like, down the line, you will get a huge upgrade to cost ratio.
That also brings up, you mentioned parts and part to cost ratio, of buying all your parts separately and assembling it yourself, to using one of the build sites that they assemble it for you, or straight up buying a pre-built. And depending on what you want to do, it all depends on your experience level, how much you intend to use it. Each one of those options has their target audience.
For sure, absolutely.
For the young kid who wants a computer to play Fortnite and play in those tournaments that Epic Games puts out every week, a pre-built is going to be fine.
Yeah, mom and dad going down to Best Buy, getting whatever the guy recommends them. Actually, what I've noticed over the past couple years, those pre-builts have been, I think because a little bit more eyes were on them, but at least from the ones I've seen, this could not be like the golden standard, but from my perspective, it seemed like those parts were like, or those builds were of relatively good value, sometimes even less expensive than the sum of their parts. I'm assuming because these retailers can afford wholesale prices of those parts.
Yeah. Like, Costco is selling Legion pre-built gaming PCs and Legion gaming laptops. It's all a matter of the market availability and what the supply and demand is. Right now, PC gaming is growing heavily because people are realizing that a computer will last for 3 or 4 generations of games with the parts you have, where you can upgrade once or twice over the years instead of paying $800 for all your new stuff every time a new console comes out.
Yeah, it is definitely a hobby of very high upfront cost, very high overhead in the beginning, but can save you down the road. Or it could not save you. You could decide you want to buy the most expensive thing, but then again, that's the whole point. You have choice. Like, your machine will be as powerful as you want it to be, as opposed to these consoles that are predetermined.
Like, personally, I actually had Shayne's help in building a PC part list on PCPartPicker.com. and through his recommendations and finding out some parts were unavailable because B&H Warehouse sucks, said it.
Hot take of the podcast.
B&H is trash. Gonna say it. I built it from mostly that list, interjecting some things here or there to match what I needed it to do. And I had all the parts to me within a week, and it was built that day that I got my motherboard, which was the last part to come in.
Go figure. Literally the thing you need the most. I mean, almost all the parts are critical, but like,
Yeah.
you know, that is the one that at least if you had the motherboard, you could just partly assemble it, waiting on the other parts. But now the foundation came last. You built the house backwards, effectively.
And that leads me into what the build process was like, to like getting set up in what it has to do. I used, oh god, what's his YouTube channel? Austin Tech Tips,
Linus Tech
Austin
Tips?
Evans. No, it wasn't Linus. It was the other guy.
Oh, yeah, one of his.
Austin Evans.
Possibly. I know that there is, and I know the guy you're talking about. I don't remember his last name though.
Yes, Austin Evans. He had a PC build video. Ow! I clicked on his YouTube page and the video started. That was great. And I basically used that as a guide to tell me how to do certain things. I found some hiccups along the way, such as my motherboard not exactly fitting in my case and having to rig it so that it would fit. And the fact that I have 2 SSD ports and only one of them is compatible with my SSD, which I didn't know at the time. It's a lot of trial and error, and that's just the way it has to be.
For sure. I actually meant to ask you when you were building, but did you how many boots was it till you were successful? Did you get it on the first go, or did you have to go back to the drawing board a couple times? How was that for you?
It was all going fairly well until I accidentally installed the factory CPU cooling instead of the one that I bought separately. And when I tried to remove the fan that AMD sent me, I ripped the processor out of the motherboard.
Yeah. Ruh-roh. Don't want to see that.
That kind of scared me because I thought I ripped a pin out, and I would have cried.
Yeah, historically, CPU pins have always been rather delicate, but to my understanding, manufacturers have made them slightly more resilient over the years. Obviously not to the point you can, play hockey with one and be good to go, but back in the day, they were very, very fragile. If you went in on a cockeyed angle, you were done, but it seems like, the pins are made of metal. I think since they've been using higher quality metal and this and that, so it is scary building a PC, just in general, with any of the parts. I learned that my first time, but once it was all together and it all fired up, I realized, it's kind of like Legos. Like, you can be a little rough with it. It's not all made of glass, but you just want to be careful. You just want to be mindful of what you're doing.
Speaking of booting it up, that's where I ran into one of my biggest problems, to where I couldn't download Windows.
That's usually preferred when you're able to do that.
Which was a 4-hour process of me trying different partitions and trying BIOS updates and driver updates, only to find out that my SSD couldn't be read in the slot it was in, so there physically wasn't any place to store Windows.
You essentially gave it empty space. You threw Harry Potter in the closet, in the little what is it, crawl space underneath the stairs, and told him to live.
I had my 8 gigabyte hard drive, or my 8 gigabyte USB stick, plugged into my computer, and that was the only storage my computer saw. And it's like, Chief, I don't know what you want me to do. There's not enough for me to do anything here. You can't do shit. And I'm like, what do you mean? There's a terabyte SSD in you. Find it. And it's like, ha, no. Put it in the right spot.
It said, but where, though? Your BIOS was effectively like the John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, just
Pulp
looking around like,
Fiction.
where's the
Yeah.
SSD? Where it be? But how gratifying was it once you finally got it to boot?
Dude, it was like 3 a.m. I was ready to scream because I finally got Windows to download. I was ecstatic. I was so happy to have that Windows downloading screen show up and to see that shitty Microsoft photo come up and say welcome.
That little stock beach photo saying like, "Come on in."
Yeah.
I had a similar experience, except I had what I thought was a boot hiccup, but mine was a lot more stupid than yours. Because essentially a very similar thing. This was probably like 3 or 4 a.m. I'd spent the past couple hours after work assembling it in my basement, and I went to go plug it in, and I went to go fire it up, and everything came up good. My particular motherboard does have error lights that will tell you if something is critical failing, because often if that's the case, you don't see anything on the display. But anyway, none of those lights were firing, so everything seemed good, but there was no picture coming up on the TV, which, you know, a little problematic. Um, so effectively, what wound up troubleshooting over the next 20 minutes was that I plugged my HDMI cord into the motherboard, like just as a standard, because I had only had consoles beforehand, and I was building my PC by myself. I didn't have anybody like over my shoulder doing the process with me. So I realized later on that one of the common mistakes that people who are going from console to PC make is they put the HDMI in the motherboard like I did and not the graphics card, because
Yeah.
believe it or not, no video information comes out of your motherboard. It comes out of your graphics card, which makes perfect sense to most people that possess common sense, but it did not to me. But once I did throw that HDMI into the graphics card, it worked immediately. It worked like a charm, and I was insanely excited. I stayed up till about 6:30 just installing like Steam and all other stuff. So it's a very fun, gratifying process. It's so much of a
Yeah.
like a eureka, like, you know, your what is it? Doc Brown from Back to the Future. Like you got the DeLorean to fire up, all that good stuff.
And you mentioned downloading Steam, which is another big thing about moving from a console to a PC, is your game library is kaput. It's gone. Unless you have like Game Pass Ultimate, to where you can download some games from what you're playing on your Xbox to having available on Windows. If you're paying your $15 a month to Uncle Bill, um,
But
if you want to have games, you have to buy them.
typically, yes, that is usually involved in the process, unless you want to go the illegal route. But you do typically have to buy them.
If you do that, fuck you, have your dick chopped off, because you're literally like the big publishers, EA, fuck them, because they can make billions of dollars on microtransactions. But when you're robbing a small game studio who just put hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into a product, you're like, I don't want to pay $12 for this. I'm gonna just download it.
Yeah, I don't want to pay the $5 for Super Meat Boy. No, we're going full Sharia law. Me and Blaine will personally come cut your genitals off if you pirate indie games. That being said, buy your games. But if you don't want to always pay for them full price, note this is where the sponsor plug comes in. If you don't want to buy your games full price, an excellent site that I use is Fanatical, which if you haven't heard of Fanatical, they are a licensed publisher seller. They sell keys that they get directly from the publishers at a discounted price. Now, some of you may have heard of less than reputable sites like G2A, which are commonly known for using...
Sorry, you said it. I threw up a little bit.
Threw up a little bit in your mouth? Okay, well, here, cover your ears. I'm going to go for it again. If you might know that G2A often uses stolen credit cards to sell the keys that are bought on there, and if you do that and the charge gets reversed, you lose that game. Steam is able to track them. It gets revoked from your Steam library, so you and usually that person who sold it to you, they still get to keep that money because they will have it deposited into a separate account. Long story short, it's not good. You wind up out of money. The person with their credit card usually winds up without their money, and the only person that wins is the thief. So we don't like that. What we do like is Fanatical, who sells legitimate keys from the publisher. I've used them for basically about a year, ever since I built my PC, and it's been nothing but a flawless experience. They usually have new or relatively new releases at slightly discounted prices, and they have bundles of older games at insanely low prices. Currently,
Going off of that, I was on Fanatical today. I was using the link, which will be in the description of this podcast, to go onto the site, and I I saw a bundle deal. It was called the Mystery Vault 2, and it comes with 8 game keys, one of which is from a AAA developer, and it was $6.99. I said, sure, why not? Why wouldn't I get 8 games with a AAA title to just build my library, to have games to play and fall back on?
basically $1 a game. How could you beat it?
But I bought 2 because I figured, $14 is not gonna hurt me.
He likes to
But I
live
didn't
dangerously,
realize
folks.
when I bought the bundle that I'd be getting the Handsome Jack collection from Borderlands, which is Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, as well as all of the downloadable content. I got Formula One Race in 2018, which is still a $50 game if you buy it directly through Steam. I got Saints Row Gat Out of Hell, which Saints Row was a favorite of mine growing up, so it's fun to play. Then I got some interesting ones like Beat Cop and 10 Second Ninja X. And Holy Potatoes, a weapon shop.
Yeah, we'll just be straight up. They're not always winners. You know, we're not. You're not pulling Cyberpunk 2077 out of them all the time. But they are good games, and they are insanely cheap. And if you don't like the bundles, if you like to know exactly what you're getting, that's fine too. Fanatical has pre-made bundles where you know exactly what you're getting. For instance, they have the Deus Ex bundle, which you can buy any amount of the games from that series from as low as $1.49. How can you beat that? $1.50? You probably got that in your couch cushions, I bet it.
Like, I'm currently on Fanatical right now, and they have the Arkham bundle from Batman, which is all 3 of the games, $12.
Yeah, I love those games. $12. If you somehow don't have those games, what are you doing? But hop on over to Fanatical and get them. And I do want to say that there will be a description for them. It is an affiliate link. I do stand to possibly gain a percentage of that sale. But what I do want to say is that throughout this whole venture, beginning to end, top to bottom, I will never promote anything that I either don't personally use or that I don't believe in. But I can speak for Fanatical. I've used them many times. I wouldn't feel comfortable making them my first sponsor if I wasn't absolutely 110% sure you'd have a great experience. So hop on over to Fanatical. There will be a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the show notes if you are listening to this on your favorite podcast app. And by the way, while we're on the topic of YouTube, if you are watching this on YouTube, there's a subscribe button, probably about 6 inches below the play bar. You should click that. And if you're listening to this elsewhere, we do have the YouTube channel 1301 Entertainment, as well as the website 1301entertainment.com. Be sure to check all of those out if you do like us and you want to see and hear more stuff from us.
Also, we will be occasionally streaming live on Twitch, whether it's Shayne or myself. I'm sure he'll put both of our links in the description or in the show notes.
Yeah.
And if you made it this far, about 50 minutes into the program, if it's fully edited down to be 50 minutes, I'm just assuming based on raw footage because I'm a troglodyte. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the shot to hear us all the way through. We hope that you enjoyed what you were hearing. We hope that you didn't get scared away by hearing us ramble about certain things that we enjoy. We hope you come back next time.
I couldn't have said it better myself, so thank you for listening. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.